table to allow traffic to route through the VGW to the customer gateway or customer remote location. After the VPN has been established, we will be able to connect from our on-prem or customer remote location to our VPC via the VPN tunnel. VPN is virtual private network and it is tunneled through the internet. Hence, the connectivity and speed may not be consistent as internet traffic can be very busy. Like right now, due to COVID-19, a lot of countries are in some forms of lockdown. Teachers and students like yourself are relying on internet for home-based learning. Many people are working from home, for example, using Zoom for video conferencing. And many are stuck at home. They spend a lot of time watching Netflix, YouTube, or play online game. So you probably realize that accessing internet is much slower now. Hence, instead of connecting your VPC via the internet, AWS provides another way to connect to the remote network called Direct Connect. Another way to connect to your VPC is via AWS Direct Connect. As the name implies, Direct Connect. With AWS Direct Connect, we can connect to VPC directly instead of tunneling through internet. Direct Connect provides 1 or 10 gig connection. If we require a lower speed connection, we can work with AWS Direct Connect partners. These are usually the telco like Singtel, Telstra, Equinix, BT, Telecom Indonesia, so on and so forth. AWS does not charge egress traffic, that is traffic coming out of AWS. Only outbound traffic is chargeable. If the VPC has to send a lot of traffic from on-premise data center, if we use the VPN, the network charges may be very high. However, outbound charges from VPC via Direct Connect is lower. But we have to take into consideration of the overhead cost in setting up Direct Connect. More importantly, Direct Connect is often preferred over VPN due to the improved network performance and reliability instead of going through internet. Also, another important point is, especially for government agency and some financial institution, they consider Direct Connect more secure than VPN. Here are some examples of why customers choose Direct Connect over VPN. If we have a hybrid cloud architecture where some of the resources is in AWS and some of the resources is in the intranet. In machine learning use case, where we have to transfer large data set between AWS and intranet. And finally, as I mentioned earlier, some financial institution or government agency dictate that all intranet access cannot be connected through the internet for security reasons. Here is an example of how we can establish a direct connect between AWS and customer network. Just like the sample VPN connection, we have a VPC on the left. It has two subnet. Subnet 1 that is located in AZA and subnet 2 that is located in AZB. Similarly, we have to attach a VGW virtual gateway to our VPC and define customer gateway. AWS does not allow customers to have direct connectivity to our data center. Also, due to security reasons, we do not publish our data center location. Imagine if we have a lot of customers trying to connect directly to our data center, it will generate a lot of unnecessarily human traffic in our data center. Hence, we only allow a selected list of qualified direct connect partner to connect directly with AWS. These direct connect partners have their own data center. For example, in Singapore, we have Equinix and Global Switch. In the diagram, we can see that there is a DX location. This is our direct connect partners data center, where AWS has our network equipment located in this data center. Customer will have to terminate their fiber connection in this data center. How can customer connect to the direct connect location? There are various options. They can run a lease line to connect to the direct connect partners data center, or they can work with their telco provider using MPLS. Once the direct connect has been established, traffic between customers' remote network and your VPC will flow through the private connection instead of over the internet. With that, we will move on to the next topic, ELB. Now, please welcome my colleague, Felix Goh. Felix is from AWS Educate team. He will be talking about ELB, Elastic Load Balancer. Over to you, Felix.
Thanks, Ronald. And with this topic itself, let's go deep dive into what is a network. How can we go about configuring a network elastic load balancer? What I'll be covering for today is really talking about some of the classic problems that current developers or even architectures that are being set up that is really a single point of failure. And additionally, we'll talk about how we can then use ELB to actually resolve those issues as well. Now, a common scenario is as such. So if you think about building an application itself and hosting it onto a single server, one of the biggest issue is that when you put a single point of contact as such, just imagine when there is a power shortage to that server itself, basically your whole application itself won't be accessible to the public or to your users as well. And this will cause a very big issue in terms of your user experiences, because then the unavailability period itself will definitely cause an impact. At the same time, with this configuration, if you think about it, when you have a large traffic load coming in from the left side into the server itself, and because you only have a single server supporting your application, you will also face the same issue because you will only then be able to host a certain number of users to access it. And this is one of the biggest problems that a lot of developers face. So when I raise something called availability, AWS is really all about high availability. It's what then is high availability to you, all right? Essentially, it's the ability to have your applications recover from a failure or manage to roll over to a second resource within an acceptable amount of time. And if you look at some of the large organizations, organizations like Netflix, for example, how are they able to support that massive amount of subscribers constantly accessing the video streams, the resources that they actually have as well? All right, and in terms when it comes down to maintenance, when it comes down to how they actually manage all this, there's a specific chart, there's a specific timeline where they actually have to accomplish this. Let's go into what is ELB then. Now, if you think about Elastic Load Balancer, the main function of an ELB is to help manage and control the flow of inbound requests destined to a group of targets by distributing this request evenly across the targeted resource group. Now, when I say in terms of the targets itself, this could be a fleet of EC2 instances that you launch within AWS. It could be also tied back to a Lambda function, right? Or it could be a range of IP addresses or even containers that can be the target group also. The targets defined within the ELB could be situated across different availability zones, like what Ronald mentioned earlier, or all placed within a single AZ. And it really depends on how you actually configure that, right? And if you look at this diagram here in the slide, essentially what's happening is that you can see that by having an elastic load balancer set up within that architecture itself, when you have a large amount of traffic or users coming in or through that ELB, it will then start to allocate the users and understand which servers are currently occupied, and push them through to the respective applications as well, or the servers. Right. In terms of ELB features itself, when we think about ELB, there's a lot of feature sets. Okay, we talk about ELB features. ELB utilizes HTTP, HTTPS, TCP, and SSL protocols. All right, and this can also the ELB can be set up to be external or internal facing, which each of them given a DNS name. All right, and the great thing about the ELB is that it recognizes and responds to unhealthy instances as well. Okay, but then it comes down to a very important question. You know, what types of ELBs are there? And you know, later on I'll address, I think I saw one of the very common questions is from the customers, and even in this chat right now, is when would I know the type of ELB to utilize? Right, so if we look at this, essentially there are three types of load balancers available. Now, if we look at the application load balancer, essentially this provides a flexible feature set for your web applications that are running with the HTTP or HTTPS protocols. All right, and this operates also at the request level, okay, with advanced routing, TLS termination, and visibility features targeted at application architectures. Right, then we go into the network load balancers as well. Essentially, network load balancers are utilized when you talk about ultra high performance or extreme performances while maintaining very low latencies. Okay, we also talk about how network load balancers can support and operates at the connection level, routing traffic to targets within your VPC. Okay, and the network load balancer will be able to handle millions of requests per second, right? So, and the last one is of course the classic load balancer, right? This is essentially used for applications that were built in the existing EC2 classic environment, all right? And this operates at both the connection and request level. So if we think about the three different types, I think it clearly defines in terms of when you should use the type of load balancers, be it whether it's application, network, or classic. Right, so this is one of the sample configuration to show you as well. So as mentioned, we have to think about having a high availability architecture setup. So with the ELB set up as the tier to control in terms of a traffic, how much traffic is coming in. And on the right-hand side, of course, you need to start configuring or setting up instances, be it whether it's across different AZs or in a single AZ itself, to provide the additional resources for your application, right? So a very simple architecture, but I think it brings down to the very key point to making your application available 24/7. Okay, and a very common, I think just before I go into the demonstration by my colleague Furin, I think one of the good questions that are being asked is how many AZs should I use? Usually the recommendations or good practice is to start with 2 AZs per AWS region. All right, if the resources in one AZ are unreachable, your application shouldn't fail because you will then back up on the other AZ as well, right? So this is just a recommendation, right? But of course, depending on your application type, you can have different kinds of architecture set up as well. So what we'll do now is we'll just go through a simple demonstration of how you can actually set up a VPC and an ELB as well, um, shown by my colleague Furin. So over to you, Furin.
To create a VPC, we can type in VPC, then click. Okay, to create a VPC, we can use launch a VPC wizard, or we can create manually. If we begin to launch with the VPC wizard, there's a few options: single subnet, public subnet, and private subnet, and so on. Okay, but with this demo, we will try to create a VPC from scratch. So we can use this your VPC, click your VPC, and then create a VPC. Okay, create a VPC. You will have this name, your VPC name. For example, this AWS Educate demo. And then we can insert the CIDR block. For example, I will ask for 10.10.10/16. Okay, and then you just a tenancy at default. Okay, from here we already create a VPC. It's called a VPC Educate with the CIDR of 10.0.0.0.6/16. Okay, after we create the VPC, then we need to create a subnet for this AWS, for this VPC. We create a subnet. We can click here, click a subnet. Okay, for example, I will create a public one. Public one. The VPC will be the AWS Educate demo. And for the availability zones, I will choose the US is 1A. Okay, this is the CIDR. For this, I will insert 4.0.10.0.1.0/24. You can create. Okay, this is the first subnet. And then we can create another subnet. For example, it's a public 2. The VPC will be the educate. The availability zones, this time we choose the 1B. And then the CIDR block will be 10.0.2.0/24. So our first subnet will be the public one. It will be the public one for 10.0.1/24, and public 2 will be the 10.0.2/24. So this is how you create VPC and also the subnet. But then if we need the internet access for our VPC, we need to create the internet gateway. Okay, we can create the internet gateway here. For example, AWS Educate internet gateway. We can create. Later on, this gateway, we need to attach this gateway to the VPC. Okay, like this one. Okay, so now we have one VPC with two public subnet 1 and public subnet 2, and also we have the internet gateway so that our server or our instance can have access through the internet. Okay, if we already create this instance, then the next step we will need to create the EC2 instance. You just click the EC2. And then from here we can create a new instance. Okay, we can launch an instance. Okay, we have the T2 Nano. And then here's the difference. This is the network part. We can choose the AWS Educate demo. And then the subnet part, we can use this public one. So we will have the first server sit on the public one. Okay, auto assign public IP will be enabled. And the last one, we will have some script. Okay, we will paste the script here. Okay, and then we just click to add the storage. And then we add tag. We can create the security group. Okay, we can choose our available security group. I think I don't have it. Okay, we can create this SSH and HTTP. Click review and launch, and then we can launch our server. We create a server with this 1 2 3 4 5. Then we create a launch instance. Okay, now we will have our first server. Our first server will be on the public one. Okay, server one. Okay, we can see here the server one. We will have this public IP 18.2.207 179.239. Okay, it's not finished. It's currently just preparing, and now it's running. Okay, and the interesting thing that this server, they will have the private IP for the subnet one. So if you remember, the subnet one IP is 10.0.1.x. Okay, so it means that this is the first server, and it will sit on the first subnet. Okay, we can try again. We can test whether it's run well. Okay, after we finish, we can try to check the server. We can type the public IP. It will show something like this. So they will have the PHP server with the web server, and then the local IP here is 10.0.1.91. But before you test the server, you need to set the routing table within the VPC. Okay, after we create the server, we can create another server. We can create again we can launch a new instance. Can select your instance detail, the same like the first server, and we can choose the public two. So currently we will have the second server, and we will put them in the public two. This auto assign will be enabled for the IP public, and then the last one is the user data. We will put this for the user data, and we can add storage, add text, and then the security group, we don't have to retype it. We just need to select here web and SSH, the one that we already create earlier. Review and launch, and then we launch, and we use the same key pair. Then we can give the name as server 2. We can set the name as the server 2. So currently we have two server, the server 1 and the server 2. Server 1 will be sit on the subnet, public subnet, server public subnet 1, and then the server 2 will be sit on the second subnet. Okay, you can see here from the server 2, the public IP is quite different, 3.87. And once again, the most interesting one is the private IP. The private IP is 10.0.2.168. Okay, so the server 1 will have the IP subnet 10.0.1, and the server 2 will have the IP 10.0.2. Now we try to access the public IP. Okay, you see here that the second IP is similar with the first IP. The difference that I put it the script here. You can see the local IP is 10.0.2, while the first one is 10.0.1. Yeah, so this is the different. Okay, after we create two servers, now it's time for us to create a load balancer. To create a load balancer, first we can go to the left panel. We click on the load balancer. Then we click create load balancer. Okay, this is the three type of load balancer: application, network, and also classic load balancer. For this live demo, we will create a network load balancer. Just type create. Okay, we create a name for the load balancer, educate load balancer. It will be internet facing. The listener, because we try using the web server, then we will use the TCP port 80. So here we create add listener, or just continue. Next, okay, configure the security group, the load balancer, because previously we already create the VPC. We have this, we choose the area-based educate demo, and then we will load balancer between the two availability zones, the availability zone A and also the availability zone B, 1A and 1B. Okay, then we create security group, configure routing. Okay, this is the target group. Since we just started, we don't have a target group, then we can create a target group. We can add here educate target group. Okay, target type instance, protocol, TCP, port 80. Okay, then we can next to register the target. Okay, this is the target, the one that we want to add to our load balancer. Okay, we have two server 1 and server 2, the one that we just create. Okay, we will add them all, but then don't forget to click the add to register. Usually the common mistake, usually we just click next to review, but we have to add to register first. Okay, then we can click next for review. After it's all done, after it's all finished, then you can click create. So then the load balancer will be create and the target group will also be create automatically. Okay, this is the status, still provisioning. It means that it takes sometimes to change to deploy. Okay, usually usually after 5 to 10 minutes, we can try to refresh here. Okay, now it's already changed the state from provisioning to active. It means that our load balancer is already active. Okay, then how to test our load balancer? We can copy this DNS name. Okay, we copy it here, and we can try in our browser. Okay, you can see this, the first try, it will be the 10.0.1.91, but then if we refresh, okay, if we refresh, it will change to 10.0.2.198. Okay, it's mean that they already changed the server, but we cannot control whether they will be in the first server or the second server. But it's showing that the load balancing is working. It will distribute the traffic from the first server and also the second server. So that's my simple live demo. I hope you can enjoy my session. Thank you and see you again in another session.
Thank you, Farin. Thank you for the presentation. Let me just put up a slide for you real quick. So for those of you who wants to continue engaging with us, please do look for this additional slide of additional resources. On the left side, we have links to AWS Educate support if you have questions. Some students ask about hands-on labs. This is the link for a guided lab session. If you want to know what's the most updated, newest features, services launched by AWS, please check out AWS blogs, documentation, and you can also check YouTube channel. There are quite a lot of tutorials for you to use and to learn from. For questions that we're unable to address today, please do get involved with AWS user groups. AWS user groups are groups in various countries that are composed of people who are passionate about cloud, about AWS, and about how to use AWS core services. So for those of you who have more technical questions, and if we are unable to answer today, please do go follow this link and get connected with the user groups. On the right-hand side, some people still ask about AWS Educate sign up. So please follow these two links for sign up, and it does have a promotion code in it so that we can make sure to have you approved as soon as possible. A lot of you ask about the certificate. So let me just quickly show you what the certificate will look like. So at the end of this session, you will be able to receive a certificate as I'm showing you right here. And again, this is a certificate to congratulate you to complete this single webinar session. For every workshop from home webinar session, you will be able to receive a certificate. Unfortunately, for the April 3rd session, we're unable to distribute. So please do come back to check more on the AWS webinar series. We will be releasing the first topic again, which is Introduction to AWS and AWS Educate. So then in that case, you will be able to receive your certification for that session. Okay, with that, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Ronald to address some of the technical questions.
Thank you, Sheng. I have several questions. One of the question is, can we attach the internet gateway and virtual gateway at the same time with a VPC? The answer is yes, we can attach both internet gateway and virtual gateway to a VPC. However, if it is an internet-only application, we can just attach the internet gateway. And if the application is for intranet users only, then we just have to attach the virtual gateway. And if the application has to be accessed by internet and intranet user, this is then where we will attach both the internet gateway and the virtual gateway to our VPC. The next question is, should we use Bastion host instead of Net Gateway? When should we use Net Gateway and Bastion host? Okay, Bastion host is really for us to do for administration purposes. Instead of opening SSH port for all the EC2 instances or server administration based on best practice, what we will do is we will create a centralized Bastion host. All server administration will go through the Bastion host. And we can also enable logging on the Bastion host. So it's really for administration purposes for us to SSH or RDP into our server to do administration, install our code, patch our server. While Net Gateway is for us because EC2 instances that is in the private subnet does not have public IP address. Hence, it is unable to reach the internet or unable to go out to the internet. After we have SSH into the EC2, for example, we want to do an update. We want to run sudo update. This is where it will make use of the Net Gateway to go out to the internet to do patching. Okay, I hope that answers the question. Next, I will hand over to Felix. Felix, over to you.
Right, thanks, Ronald. I think I've already picked up two questions that are commonly asked. I think the first question is, how do I decide which load balancer to select for my application? Like I mentioned, ELB supports 3 types of load balancers. And you can actually make your selection based on your application's needs itself, right? Say for example, if you need to load balance HTTP requests, then you should be using the application load balancer. Or if you're talking about network or transport protocols load balancing, okay, and for extreme performance or low latency applications, we recommend you to use the the network load balancer. If your application is built within the EC2 classic network, then you should just use the classic load balancer itself. So it's pretty straightforward. It's really dependent on your application needs. The other question that I have is essentially can I privately access ELB APIs from my Amazon Virtual Private Cloud without using public IPs? Yes, you can privately access ELB APIs from your Amazon VPC by creating VPC endpoints. Right, with these endpoints, the routing between the VPC and ELB APIs will be handled by AWS Network without the need for an internet gateway, a NAT gateway, or even a VPN connection. Right, and of course, the latest generation of VPC endpoints used by ELB are powered by AWS Private Link, okay, which enables the private connectivity between AWS services using elastic network interfaces with private IPs in your VPCs. Okay, so this is how you can access it. And if you have more questions, feel free to put them in the question board. With that, I'll just hand it over to Shang.
Thank you, Felix. I just want to have a minor announcement here. For people who have continuous questions, I'm going to share a LinkedIn link to everyone so that you can see the link. So please follow this link to get live updates on AWS Educate Asia Pacific activities and updates for future webinars. So I'm going to send to everyone. Please check your messaging box. Some of you actually asked about badge questions. So let me just quickly show you how the badges work. So once you're in AWS Educate, you have the option of selecting any of the career pathway or pathways. And upon finishing any of the pathways or the badges, you will be able to receive a digital badge. So for instance, in my profile, in my portfolio page, you can see this is the progress I currently have and the credentials that I have earned. So the use of those are really for you to build your portfolio, which you can download here. And you can use that to apply for jobs, right? And where do you find jobs? Of course, you can go check on LinkedIn, you can check on JobStreet, so on and so forth. But don't forget, there is a job board in AWS Educate that allows you to look for jobs that are currently opening right now. You can search by country, for example, India. These are the current available jobs that are posted by AWS, as well as all the companies who are hiring AWS talents. Okay, so let me put this slide back up. There are some technical questions. Ronald was able to address a lot of them simultaneously. Ronald, do you want to address some of the common questions to you next?
Okay, sorry, I was busy typing. Okay, one other question is, can we use both VPN and direct connect? And the answer, yes, we typically see that as well. The reason why we want to have both direct connect and VPN is because direct connect is more costly as compared with VPN. So direct connect, usually we will use it for production. Then when it fails, then we will route through VPN. And of course, if for very mission critical application, customer will actually have two direct connection. So just now I mentioned in Singapore, we have 2 direct connect partner, Equinix one and Global Switch. One of them is located in Tai Seng, the other one is in One North. So for customer that has very mission critical application, they will establish 2 direct connect with 2 colo provider. Just in case one direct connect is down, they can use the other direct connect. And of course, the cheaper option or more cost-effective option is to use direct connect and then use VPN as a backup. Okay, so I think there's more question. I will answer them privately.
Felix, do you want to take over for some more questions?
Sure. Just one more. I think there's a lot of comparison questions as well. So does a classic load balancer have the same features and benefits of an application load balancer? Well, there are some overlaps, but in terms of feature parity between the 2 types of load balancers, there's not much difference. Okay, application load balancers are the foundation of our application layer load balancing platform for the future. Okay.
Thank you, Felix. We are going to close this up really soon. Please do, if you have questions, please do and ask them in the question box right now. As long as we still have Ronald on this webinar. I think Ronald is very popular today. There are a lot of questions directed to you. Ronald, do you want to pick one last or 2 last questions to address from the audience?
Okay, one other question is, if I install more than 1 VPN for my particular system, how much load balancing will be required for that particular system, and which load balancer will be effective for the same? So it's 2 different topics actually. For VPN portion, if we have more than 1 VPN, what happens is VPN has a limitation of 1.25 gig. So maximum we can burst up is 1.25. So for customer that require more bandwidth, what they will do is they will do aggregation of VPN. So if I were to aggregate 2 or 3, we can have more higher throughput to go through our VPN tunnel. Second part of the question, how much load balancing will be required for that particular system, and which load balancer will be effective for the same? Okay, so for load balancer is slightly different. So when we channel the URL or the CNAME to the load balancer, we have different routing mechanism, either used by based on location. When it's coming in from Korea, we will use certain server to handle, or based on content-based routing, /mobile will route to another type of application, or we can also give a weightage. So there are different ways to route, 6 or 7 different ways to route using the load balancer that we can choose the different algorithm.
Thank you, Ronald. I will give the floor to Suresh. We just made a small announcement in the messaging box. Suresh, you have the floor.
Yeah, sure. So a while ago, you all saw the VPC demo by Furin. Now, Furin was also sharing some user data information, which is basically your pre-configuration for your instances to be launched on VPC. So if you would like that configuration, if it helps you launch your instances, it's actually provided on the chat window again. So it's aws educate.furinonco.id/user data, right? So feel free to get it there. Yep, that's it.
Okay, thank you, Suresh. There is one last question for Ronald, actually. How do I attach Amazon S3 bucket to VPC?
Okay, so there are services that live out of the VPC, right? So what we are probably very familiar with Windows Server or Linux Server. those are the resources that will live in the VPC. However, there are a lot of other resources like S3, DynamoDB, they live outside of the VPC. So how do I attach or access is we will, depends on the type of services that we will do an API call to be able to access the S3 bucket, right? For example, or we will use services like SFTP to do file sharing. So there are a lot of different ways that we can do it. So, but the main thing here is there are services that live inside the VPC, and there are also a lot of services that is region-based that we will replicate it, where we will replicate it to make sure that it's highly available. S3, for example.
Thank you, Ronald. Just in the interest of time, sorry that we cannot answer all the questions that you guys raised. Like we said, please do get involved with the user group. There will be people like Ronald, Felix, Suresh, and Furin to engage with you, to interact with you with the questions that you have regarding AWS. So once again, we really thank you for your attention. Once you exit from this webinar, you will be asked several questions about the interested topics that you'd like to explore, that you'd like us to offer from now on. So that is really important for us, and that will give us a good signal on what are the common popular topics that you want us to cover. So please do look out for that. The survey questions will only pop up after you exit the webinar. So take a look at that. So thank you once again for joining the AWS Workshop from Home webinar sessions. We really appreciate your attention, and we hope to see you in the next coming up webinar sessions. We will be offering more webinar sessions like this with specific topics. We will be also featuring topics such as, startup, a deep racer, or RoboMaker, those popular topics among students and educators to learn from. So please do keep an eye out, keep checking back on the Workshop from Home page that we had shared with you in the beginning. If you cannot find it anymore, just search for AWS Workshops from Home. You'll be able to see the most updated agenda and schedule. So once again, thank you, and hope to see you again soon.